In my line of work, you see two kinds of disappearances. The first kind is messy. Blood, signs of a struggle, a broken window. It's obvious. Someone took something or someone took someone. It tells a story, a violent, chaotic one. But the second kind is perfect. It's when you stand in the middle of a room and your gut screams that something terrible has happened. But all the evidence whispers back, nothing at all. This was the case of Emil Grant. He was a sculptor, a brilliant one. His house was more like a museum. High ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows coated in a thin film of dust, and that distinct, earthy smell of wet clay mixed with old, cold coffee. And one day, he just vanished. I mean, he literally evaporated into thin air. His studio was clean, impeccably clean, like it was prepped for a magazine shoot. The windows were shut tight. The door was locked from the inside. And on his workbench sat his final piece. A hyper-realistic statue of a man caught in a moment of deep, almost painful stillness. It looked like it had just exhaled its very last breath. It was unsettling. There were no signs of a struggle. Nothing was stolen. It was perfect. Too perfect. And I knew it instantly. This wasn't just a disappearance. This was a statement. A manifesto. Emil Grant was a genius, but he was also intensely private. His sculptures were highly sought after, but lately, he had started to despise them. I discovered that for the last 6 months, he hadn't created anything new. Instead, he'd been liquidating his entire life's work. He sold his whole portfolio, amassing a massive fortune. But the money was gone. His bank accounts were empty. There was no trace of extravagant spending, no gambling debts, no secret life. The money had simply vanished, just like him. It was as if the volume of his entire existence had been turned down to zero. Amidst the eerie perfection of his studio, only one object fell out of place. It was a small, leather-bound notebook, almost hidden under a layer of clay dust. I opened it, expecting sketches, but there were none. It was filled with text, written in a strange, almost archaic cipher. There were dates, geometric patterns, and recurring references to something called cleansing and a group known as the Cathars. I spoke to his neighbor, who remembered seeing Grant one last time. He was talking to a tall, elegant man dressed in an old-fashioned coat, carrying a large leather briefcase. Their conversation was quiet, but the neighbor caught one chilling phrase. "It will be an eternity, Emil." A perfect transaction. A collector with a briefcase. The missing money. Suddenly, it clicked. This wasn't a crime scene. It was the aftermath of a deal. The cipher was complex, but it wasn't military grade. It felt philosophical. I needed a key, and those references to the Cathars seemed like the place to start. The Cathars, or Albigenses, were a medieval sect who believed the material world was a prison. They believed that to truly free the soul, one had to renounce the body, to undergo a final cleansing. This was the key. After hours of work, I finally broke the code. The notebook wasn't a diary. It was a technical formula, a precise, chilling recipe describing the perfect proportions for creating an empty form. An empty form that was still perfectly, hauntingly realistic. I looked back at the sculpture in the studio, and a cold dread washed over me. It was a perfect cast, a perfect shell. Underneath the formula in the notebook, there was a single date, circled 3 times, which happened to be today's date. And beside it, one word: plaza. The plaza turned out to be an old, forgotten pottery workshop on the outskirts of the city. It was a place with high-quality clay, industrial molding mixtures, and complete, total solitude. The perfect place to disappear. And there, in a dim room thick with the smell of clay, I found him. The tall man in the coat. His name was Pierre Duval. He was a collector, he admitted, but not of paintings or rare coins. He collected ultimate acts of will. He collected perfect disappearances. He was completely calm as I approached him. "Where is Grant?" I asked. "What did you do to him?" Duval just smiled, a thin, knowing smile. "Me? I did nothing. He did it all himself. I was merely the executor of his final wish, his ultimate performance." He then laid out the entire story. Grant had become obsessed with the idea that his art had to be pure, completely untainted by the material world. So he decided to sell everything: his art, his money, his identity, even his own body, to finally liberate his artistic idea. He paid Duval an enormous sum for 2 things: complete anonymity and the right to vanish forever. He left us with only the shell, that statue in his studio. It wasn't just a sculpture. It was his body, preserved as a final, hollow masterpiece. He had undergone his own personal cleansing, a complete renunciation of the physical world. The case was officially closed as a voluntary self-removal from public life. There was no crime to prosecute. There was only a philosophical manifesto, expressed in the most extreme way imaginable. Emil Grant was gone, leaving us with nothing but a question. Can art ever be worth a human life? So I want to ask you all, what do you think? Was this an act of ultimate freedom or a descent into madness? Did he truly achieve his cleansing, or was it the most tragic form of self-destruction? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the dark corners of the human mind. If you enjoy stories that make you question everything, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We've got plenty more mysteries to uncover together. Until next time, stay curious.